The McDonald's restaurant is located at the corner of a busy street, always filled with the lively sounds of excited visitors. The aroma of freshly fried fries and burgers being grilled tempts the appetite, creating a warm atmosphere that is usually enjoyable. Behind the counter, employees in red and yellow uniforms prepare to serve, friendly to customers who wait patiently in line. It was a bright weekend, and everyone seemed happy until Malik entered the restaurant. Malik, a black man in his 30s, stepped in with a tired face after a long day working as an online motorcycle taxi driver. He had just finished a long shift and wanted to enjoy his favorite Big Mac, taking a moment to relax from the hustle of the city. He wore a loose black t-shirt and comfortable jeans, walking down the restaurant aisle filled with the laughter of children and the conversations of adults. His smile faded as he saw the long line waiting at the counter. As Malik approached the counter, he did not realize that behind the desk, Aaron, an employee known for his racist attitude, was preparing to serve. Aaron, in his early 20s, stood with a haughty posture. He was known in the restaurant for his rude behavior, often making biting comments to customers who did not align with his views. As Malik approached, Aaron raised an eyebrow and sneered with a mocking tone. "Hey, look who's here. What do you want to order, bro?" Aaron said those words with a sarcastic tone, as if highlighting their differences. Some nearby customers began to divert their attention, and Malik could feel their suspicious stares. Malik, who initially tried to ignore it, felt anger beginning to flare inside him. "I just want one Big Mac and fries, please," he replied calmly, trying to remain patient despite his fingers clenching at his sides. He hoped Aaron would act professionally, but instead, Aaron pressed harder. "Big Mac? Ha, you know that's not food for someone like you, right?" Aaron continued, spreading his words in front of other customers who began to notice the developing situation. Some customers sitting at nearby tables turned their heads away, holding their breath, while others started taking out their phones to record. The cheerful atmosphere quickly turned tense. The tension began to feel palpable in the air. Malik stared at Aaron, trying to calm himself. "Look, I don't want to argue. I just want to order my food," he said, his voice starting to tremble as he held back emotions beginning to explode. In his mind, he reflected on how often he had faced similar situations, fighting against the stereotypes attached to him just because of his skin color. However, Aaron did not stop. "What? Afraid to say something? Or do you think by dressing like that you can sneak in here and get a burger like a normal person?" His voice rose, and there was a clear tone of disdain in his words. Other customers began to whisper, and Malik could feel the crowd getting closer. Some of them looked like they wanted to help, but many just watched, afraid to get caught in the conflict. "I think I need to report your behavior to the manager," Malik shouted, his voice reflecting dissatisfaction and injustice. He tried to rise and show that he would not be bullied. However, Aaron just smiled cynically, seeming to enjoy the attention he received from other visitors. "Go ahead. They won't side with you. People like you always cause problems here," Aaron replied nonchalantly, as if dismissing everything happening. Shame and anger swelled within Malik. He felt the blood rushing in his ears, and he knew he could not let this continue. Stepping closer to the counter, he prepared to challenge Aaron and fight for his rights. "I will not stay silent. This is wrong, and I will fight back," he exclaimed, his voice filled with passion. From behind, a manager who had heard the commotion began to approach, looking concerned. "What's going on here?" he asked, trying to understand the situation. The surrounding customers started to take an interest in the ongoing confrontation, their faces full of curiosity, and some even looked incredulous. Aaron quickly explained with a tone full of lies. "He's just trying to get attention, manager. I was just telling him how to behave properly here." He can't accept reality. Malik felt his stomach turn at those words. He wanted to defend himself, but felt disappointment flowing through his veins. Malik sensed the support of the surrounding customers. They began to speak out. "This isn't right. He just wants to order his food," shouted a woman sitting at a table near the window. Other customers began to stand, voicing their dissatisfaction with Aaron's actions. The situation became more heated. Aaron looked stunned but quickly changed his expression to one of arrogance. "You're all just fools. He doesn't deserve to be treated well," he spoke louder, trying to draw attention to himself and assert his power. Malik felt his heart racing. He knew he could not let this continue. "You don't have the right to treat others like this, Aaron. This is a restaurant that should be welcoming to everyone. Aren't you ashamed?" Malik struggled to keep his composure, but his anger and frustration began to boil over. "A safe place. Only if you don't bring your inappropriate habits here. You know, people like you will never understand," Aaron said dismissively. Other customers began to whisper, some shaking their heads while others looked uncomfortable. The atmosphere grew tenser, and Malik felt cornered by Aaron's hateful words. Malik tried to remain calm, but as he saw the reactions from other customers, he realized this struggle was bigger than just him. It was about everyone who had suffered at the hands of people like Aaron. With a burning spirit, he raised his voice. "You're wrong, Aaron. I will speak up, and everyone here will hear it. There's no place for racism in this restaurant." Back behind the counter, the manager looked shocked by the developing situation. "I think we need to talk about this in the back, all right? Let's try to calm things down," he said, trying to diffuse the escalating tension. Malik felt his heart racing, knowing this was an opportunity to change everything. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who has been treated the same way. You need to take action to stop this," Malik shouted, his voice filled with determination. He felt his spirit rising, and he would not back down. Other customers around him began to clap, providing the much-needed support. Aaron, feeling cornered, tried to fight to maintain his position. "You all don't know what you're talking about. This is my restaurant too, and I can do whatever I want." He attempted to take control of the situation, but the crowd's voices grew louder, refusing to be silenced. Finally, in a moment of peak tension, Malik turned to Aaron, his gaze full of determination. "You won't win today. This is the time for all of us to stand against hate and injustice. I will fight you, and I won't be alone." The sound of applause echoed through the restaurant, creating an atmosphere that supported Malik in his struggle. A spirit of solidarity began to grow among the customers, and Aaron, once confident, now looked anxious and cornered. Malik felt that support strengthening his spirit, and he knew he was not fighting alone. With burning passion and a determination to change the situation, Malik felt this was just the beginning of a larger fight. He would not let racism and hatred dominate a place that should be safe for everyone. As he stared at Aaron, he knew he had to stand firm, not just for himself, but for everyone who had felt the same injustice. "Get ready, Aaron. This isn't just about me, this is about everyone who wants change," he said, determined to turn this restaurant into a better place, not only for himself, but for everyone who deserved fair treatment. After the confrontation at the counter, Malik left the restaurant with a swirl of mixed emotions. His anger was still simmering, a fiery response to the humiliation he felt. Yet, amidst that fury, there was a flicker of victory as he reflected on the support he had received from other customers. He understood that what had transpired at the McDonald's was not just about him, it was part of a larger struggle against racism and the injustices that often permeate daily life. That evening, Malik found himself seated on his small sofa in his apartment, staring out at the dark sky beyond the window. The city lights twinkled like distant stars, creating a stark contrast to the tumultuous feelings within him. His heart raced as he recalled the events of the day, igniting a newfound inspiration to act not just as a victim, but as a voice for those who had been wronged. With this determination, he decided to record a video sharing his experience. He wanted to spread his story, educate others, and empower those who felt marginalized. After several attempts, Malik finally captured a recording that resonated with him. In the video, he recounted the bitter experience he had at the restaurant, expressing the deep frustration and anger that had built up inside him. "We can't stay silent anymore. We must stand up for ourselves and fight against all forms of discrimination," he said, his voice filled with emotion. Once uploaded to a social media platform, he waited anxiously, hoping that someone would hear his voice. The following day, the video began to attract attention. Friends who had been unaware of the incident started commenting and sharing it. Malik felt a swell of happiness seeing the support pour in. Some comments expressed empathy, while others shared similar experiences. He realized he was not alone, many others felt the same way. Yet, amidst all the positive comments, one stood out, a challenge from a user named Aaron Theracist. "I know who you are and you're just looking for attention. Try saying that to my face and see what happens," the comment read, openly daring Malik. Receiving that message, Malik felt a surge of anger rising within him. He recognized Aaron as the same person who had humiliated him at the restaurant. But this time, he resolved not to let fear hold him back. He began devising a plan. He wanted to return to the restaurant, but this time he wouldn't go alone. He reached out to his friends and invited them to join him, ensuring they would all stand together for support if the situation escalated. After scheduling a meetup at the McDonald's for the weekend, Malik felt a sense of calm wash over him. He was determined to speak with the manager and file a formal complaint regarding Aaron's behavior. On the day of the meeting, he gathered with his friends, all of whom were ready to provide moral support. They arrived at the restaurant, which appeared just as it had before, bustling with customers enjoying their meals. As Malik and his friends entered the restaurant, They spotted Aaron standing at the counter, an impatient look on his face. He immediately recognized Malik and furrowed his brow. Malik refused to let fear show on his face. He walked confidently toward the counter, followed closely by his enthusiastic friends. His back shouted a customer who recognized Malik from the viral video. Whispers began to circulate among the patrons, and the atmosphere grew tense once more. Malik could feel the eyes of the crowd on him, a cold sweat forming on his temples, but he pushed those feelings aside. He knew this was a necessary step. "Malik, back again? You here to apologize?" Aaron mocked, spitting the words out with a sneer. His derisive smile remained, but Malik stood his ground, unwavering. Lisa looked at Malik, then turned to Aaron, who still stood with an arrogant demeanor. "Aaron, what happened?" she asked, her tone beginning to sharpen. "I was just joking, Lisa. He's being too sensitive," Aaron replied condescendingly, attempting to manipulate the manager. Malik felt his frustration mounting at Aaron's dismissive response. "This isn't just a joke. It's about the humiliation I experienced and how you treat me," he asserted. Malik's friends started to chime in, sharing their own experiences and rallying behind Malik. "He's right. We won't stay silent." "This isn't a joke," one of Malik's friends shouted passionately. Other customers began to nod in agreement, offering support and courage to Malik. Lisa appeared increasingly uneasy as the situation heated up. "All right, I want to hear from everyone involved. Let's move to the back room for further discussion," she suggested, trying to de-escalate the tension. She looked at Aaron seriously, as if signaling that his behavior was unacceptable. As they made their way to the back room, Malik felt adrenaline coursing through his veins. He knew this was his opportunity to make a change. He would speak out not only for himself, but for everyone who felt marginalized by discriminatory behavior. "I'm not alone in this," he thought, feeling the strength of his friends and other customers rallying outside. In the back room, the atmosphere felt more intimate, yet the tension remained. Malik, Aaron, and Lisa sat facing one another, while Malik's friends waited outside, prepared to lend support. Lisa opened the conversation. "I want to hear your perspectives." "Malik, please start," she said, giving him the floor. With a racing heart, Malik began sharing his experience, detailing how he felt belittled by Aaron's words and how that treatment created an unsafe environment in the restaurant. He emphasized that racism was not something to be taken lightly. "We all have the right to be treated with respect, regardless of our skin color," Malik stated firmly. Aaron attempted to defend himself. "I'm not racist. I was just joking. There's nothing to worry about," he said condescendingly. But Malik knew that these words only masked his true attitude. He could see that Aaron had no intention of changing his behavior. Malik continued, "Your actions not only hurt me, but they also affect everyone who hears them. Racism is real, and we can't allow it to continue. If you don't understand that your words have consequences, then you need to start thinking more deeply." His voice grew stronger, and he noticed doubt beginning to surface on Aaron's face. As the discussion progressed, Malik felt more confident. He had articulated his points clearly and directly. "I want you, Lisa, to take action. We can't let behavior like this continue unchecked. Everyone in this restaurant deserves to feel safe and respected." Lisa nodded, appearing to understand. "I apologize for what has happened. We will investigate this matter and take appropriate action. Racism will never be tolerated here," she stated, her tone growing more assertive. She looked at Malik with empathy, as if truly listening to everything he had to say. Malik felt a wave of relief wash over him as he heard Lisa's words. He knew that the first step had been taken, but his emotions were a mix of hope and uncertainty. "I hope this isn't just an empty promise," he thought. As Malik exited the back room, he was greeted by cheers and applause from his friends and other customers waiting outside. He felt a sense of relief and victory, knowing that he had stood up for his rights and for the voices of others. This small moment made him feel like he had accomplished something meaningful. However, in his heart, he also recognized that this was just the beginning of a longer journey. He needed to continue fighting for change, not just at McDonald's but throughout the community. Today may have been a small step, but we will keep pushing until our voices are heard, he thought. Malik looked around at the faces of support surrounding him, friends, customers, even a few other employees who had witnessed the events. They were all united in a common goal to stand against racism. Yet, as he walked out of the restaurant, Malik felt a lingering tension in the air. He knew that Aaron would not back down easily. After seeing the anger on Aaron's face when Malik spoke with Lisa, he sensed that this was only the beginning of a larger conflict. That night, as Malik lay in bed, he reflected on everything that had transpired, He couldn't help but think about the possibilities that lay ahead. What would Aaron do next? Would he retaliate, trying to damage Malik's reputation? The uncertainty gnawed at him, disrupting his sleep. He also began planning his next steps. Malik wanted to initiate a campaign to raise awareness about workplace racism, educating more people about the importance of respect and tolerance. He aimed to create real change, not just for himself but for future generations. With a fiery spirit and a sense of purpose, Malik started to brainstorm ideas. He thought about gathering signatures for a petition, organizing community meetings, and reaching out to local organizations that fought for equality. The journey would not be easy, but Malik was resolute. As sleep finally overtook him, Malik knew that the fight for justice was far from over. He would continue to battle for the rights of himself and others, driven by a fire of determination that burned brightly within him. This was only the beginning of a greater movement, and he was ready to lead the way. The next day, Malik woke up with a renewed spirit. Despite not having slept well the night before, his mind was filled with ideas on how to confront Aaron and make McDonald's a better place for everyone. He knew that the first step was to gather support from his community. With that determination in mind, Malik quickly reached out to his friends to inform them of his plan to hold a community meeting. He wanted to invite anyone who felt affected by racism, not just those who had experienced direct discrimination, but also those who wanted to stand against injustice. Malik was determined to create a space where everyone could speak and share their experiences. The more people involved, the greater the impact. After formulating his plan, Malik began spreading the word through social media and the WhatsApp groups he had with his friends. He also made posters containing invitations to gather and share stories in the city park over the weekend. "Let's unite to fight against racism," he wrote in bold letters. Quickly, he felt proud to see many friends and even some people he didn't know responding enthusiastically. When the day of the meeting arrived, Malik felt a little nervous but also excited. He arrived at the park early to prepare everything. He brought banners with messages about unity and tolerance, as well as some folding chairs for the participants. Slowly, people began to arrive, bringing their various stories and experiences. Some brought their children, and the atmosphere in the park began to feel warm and hopeful. As everyone gathered, Malik stood in front of the crowd and took a deep breath. "Thank you all for coming. Today we are here to talk about racism and how we can unite to confront it," he said, his voice echoing among the trees. He began by sharing his experience at McDonald's, how the incident had touched his heart and made him feel that it was time to speak up. Malik shared the video he had made and saw the faces around him begin to show empathy and concern. "This isn't just about me. It's about everyone who has ever felt unsafe, marginalized, or insulted just because of their skin color," he said, and people began to nod. Sarah, a middle-aged woman with a gentle face and an attentive gaze, stood up after Malik finished speaking. "I've experienced something similar at my workplace. One time, a colleague called me a racist term in front of everyone. I felt so stressed and didn't know what to do," she said, her voice trembling. "But now I feel stronger because we are all here together." The stories flowed from one person to another, and the atmosphere in the park became increasingly lively. Everyone listened to and supported each other, providing much-needed encouragement. Malik felt an incredible energy, and he knew they were creating something bigger than just a meeting. They were building a community. As several people shared their experiences, Malik noticed a teenager named Jamal sitting in a corner with a serious expression. Malik recognized him as a talented local basketball player, but he also knew that Jamal had faced discrimination on the court. When Malik invited Jamal to speak, the teenager seemed hesitant. I don't know where to start," he said, his voice quiet. "It's okay, Jamal. Take a deep breath. Share what you feel," Malik encouraged gently. Jamal looked at the crowd, then took a deep breath and began to speak. "Once, when I was playing in a tournament, an opponent said racist things about me just because of my skin color. It hurt a lot and made me feel unvalued," he said, his eyes starting to well up. "But now, seeing everyone here, I feel that we can do something." Hearing Jamal's story, the crowd applauded, encouraging the teenager. Malik felt a deep emotion as he saw how many people were brave enough to speak up. He realized that sharing experiences was an essential step in healing existing wounds. "We all have valuable stories," he emphasized, highlighting the importance of listening to one another. After several hours of sharing experiences, Malik concluded by inviting everyone to plan their next steps together. "Let's make real change. We can reach out to local media, organize peaceful protests, and collaborate with organizations that care about this issue," he said, his face shining with enthusiasm. "If we unite, we can turn this stigma into positive action." Hearing Malik's enthusiasm, many people began to raise their hands, agreeing with the proposed ideas. They discussed creating a petition to urge McDonald's to conduct diversity training for all employees. They also talked about how to organize awareness campaigns to reach more people in their community. A voice emerged from the back. A man in his 40s with a muscular build and a serious expression. "What's the first step we should take?" he asked. "We need to have a clear plan to ensure our voices are heard." "Right," Malik replied. "We can start by drafting a petition. Let's create a list of issues we want to raise with McDonald's management and why diversity training is important." They all began to formulate the key points that needed to be addressed, and the energy among them grew stronger. One by one, they started offering suggestions. A young woman volunteered to design posters for their campaign. Some older folks offered to help contact local media. The longer they spoke, the more ideas flowed, and the group's enthusiasm grew. After the meeting ended, Malik felt satisfied and proud. He saw many hopeful and determined faces. They had created a space where people could speak and feel heard. He knew this was just the beginning, but they had taken a significant step toward change. A few days later, Malik and his friends began planning a more organized action. They met regularly, discussing strategies and how to involve more people. Each meeting strengthened their sense of unity. Malik felt as if he were not only fighting for himself, but also for everyone who had ever experienced injustice. However, news of their actions had also reached Aaron's ears. He was unhappy that Malik and his friends were trying to change the situation at the restaurant where he worked. Deep down, he felt threatened and began plotting revenge. He gathered his friends who shared similar views, and together they planned to disrupt the event Malik and his group had organized. One night, as Malik sat with his friends planning a peaceful protest, he received a message that made his heart race. "Don't think you can do this without consequences. We will stop all of this." Read the message from an anonymous account. Fear and worry began to creep into Malik. He knew that Aaron wouldn't sit idly by. But amid those feelings, he also felt the strength from the community he had built. "If we stand together, we can face anything," he thought. He took a deep breath and was determined not to let the threat stop him. The next day, he decided to talk to his friends about the message he received. "I got a threat from someone who doesn't like what we're doing. But we can't back down now. We have to move forward and not be influenced by fear," he said, looking into the determined faces around him. They all agreed. With a burning spirit, they planned their protest and decided to prepare everything well. Malik felt that his struggle was now not only for himself but for everyone who had ever felt marginalized. They would show that racism had no place in their community. In the coming days, they worked hard to prepare for the protest. They designed banners with various positive messages, collected signatures for the petition, and devised a plan to speak with local media. Malik felt inspired to see so many people getting involved and excited about making a change. However, as the day of the protest drew nearer, Malik felt that something bigger was waiting for them. He knew that confronting Aaron and his friends wouldn't be easy. He braced himself for whatever might happen, confident that together they would succeed in making a real change. The night before the protest, Malik couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, thinking about all the things that could happen. What would Aaron do? What if they tried to disrupt the protest? Yet, amid the uncertainty, Malik knew he was not alone. He had a supportive community, and that gave him the strength to keep moving forward. With a burning spirit, Malik decided to write a few words for himself, a reminder to stay focused on his goals. "We are the voice that will not be silenced. We will fight for justice, and we will not back down." When Malik finally fell asleep, he knew that his struggle had just begun. He was ready to face the challenges ahead and was determined to combat racism with courage and unity. The long-awaited day had finally arrived. That morning, Malik woke up with mixed feelings. He felt excited and tense at the same time. After all the hard work and planning they had done, today was the time to show the world that they would not stay silent in the face of racism. He looked out the window at the bright weather and felt hope in his heart. Malik wore a shirt that said "Stop Racism" and double-checked all the supplies they had prepared. Banners, posters, and some recording devices to document the event were neatly organized. He also made sure they had invited several journalists from local media to cover their protest. Before leaving, Malik gathered his friends at his house. "Remember, we're not just here to raise our voices, but also to show that we stand united. We must remain peaceful and focus on our message," he said with enthusiasm. His friends nodded, feeling the same excitement and tension. When they arrived at the city park, Malik saw many people already gathered. Some unfamiliar faces were also present, seemingly moved by the invitation shared on social media. There were over 100 people, and the atmosphere began to feel alive. There was laughter, conversation, and colorful banners showing support for them. Malik felt moved seeing the crowd standing with him. He knew this was a historic moment. "Let's get started," he shouted, and the crowd cheered. After a few speeches from community leaders, Malik took the microphone. "Today we gather here to fight against racism and discrimination. We can no longer allow hate to destroy our community. We all deserve to be treated with respect and justice," he shouted. The sound of thunderous applause filled the air. The protest began with inspiring speeches from community members sharing their experiences and calling for change. Malik felt proud to see the diversity of participants present. There were elders, young people, even families with small children. They all united with one goal: to fight against racism. As the event progressed, Malik also organized some discussion sessions. He knew that sharing experiences was a good way to support each other and strengthen solidarity. "Let's break into small groups and listen to each other," he said. "We all have valuable stories." In the middle of a discussion session, as Malik moved around listening to people's stories, he spotted some familiar faces. Aaron and a group of his friends stood on the sidewalk, watching with cynical expressions. Malik felt his heart race, but he tried to ignore their presence. After the discussion session ended, Malik returned to the stage. "We need to show the world that we are not afraid. Let's peacefully march to the McDonald's restaurant to demonstrate that we will not tolerate racism anywhere," he shouted. The crowd greeted that call with enthusiastic cheers. They all began to move, confidently stepping toward the restaurant. Malik was at the front, leading with a banner that read "Equality for All" while accompanied by protest songs. But as they arrived in front of the restaurant, the atmosphere began to change. Malik could feel the tension in the air. Aaron and his friends, who had previously just been watching, now moved closer. Some of them started shouting racist slurs and harassing the protest participants. "You're all just wasting your time. Why don't you go back to where you came from?" Aaron shouted, his voice full of hate. Anger began to simmer in Malik's heart, but he knew he couldn't let the situation derail his purpose. "Stay calm. We are here to deliver a message, not to fight," he shouted to his friends, trying to ease the atmosphere. However, Aaron didn't stop. He urged some people to disrupt the protest, shouting and trying to provoke participants with various insults. Some people in the crowd began to respond with anger, and Malik knew he had to act quickly. "Listen, we are not here to respond to hate with hate. We are here to stand with love and unity," Malik shouted, trying to defuse the situation. He grabbed Jamal's hand, who was standing next to him, and nodded to show support. Jamal, inspired by Malik's courage, took the microphone. "We will not let their words stop us. We are here to talk about love and acceptance, not to get caught up in hatred," he said, and the crowd began to shout in agreement. Seeing the support given to Malik and Jamal, some of Aaron's side began to waver. However, Aaron, feeling threatened by Malik's courage, refused to back down. "You will never change anything. This is our world," he shouted. In the midst of the crowd, Malik felt his heart racing. He knew that Aaron represented not only hatred but also a deeper fear. Fear of change. Malik decided to do something different. He took a deep breath and began to sing. "We Shall Overcome," the famous protest song, flowed from his lips. Malik's voice was slowly joined by the crowd. "Join me," Malik shouted, and soon the voices of thousands began to rise, creating a melody of hope amid the tension. The melody began to ease the atmosphere, and even some from Aaron's group looked confused. Malik felt a resurgence of unity among them. As the song continued, Malik saw Aaron begin to back off, his previously angry eyes now diverted. Some people behind Aaron began to whisper and looked uncertain. Malik knew this was their chance to show that love and solidarity could be stronger than hate. With renewed spirit, Malik continued, "We will not back down. We will stand together until justice is achieved. We will change this world one step at a time." The crowd echoed that spirit, and they grew more united, singing protest songs even louder. That night they stood not just for themselves, but for everyone who had ever felt marginalized. Finally, as night fell, Aaron and his friends, who had previously dared to disrupt, appeared smaller behind. Malik knew this protest was not just a moment for them, but also to break the hatred that had taken root in their community. He felt proud to see everyone present, united in courage and love. As Malik and his friends wrapped up the protest, they felt this small step was the beginning of something bigger. He knew that although challenges lay ahead, they had shown the world that their voices would not be silenced. They were ready to continue their struggle. And that day, under the starlight, they became a symbol of hope for many. The next day after the emotionally charged protest, Malik woke up feeling a mix of emotions. He was proud of what they had achieved, but he also worried about what would happen next. Would Aaron and his friends retaliate? Would the management at McDonald's listen to their voices? Taking a deep breath, Malik decided not to let fear take control. He immediately contacted his friends to plan their next steps. He knew they needed to follow up the protest with concrete actions. Through their WhatsApp group, he organized a meeting at his house. When Malik opened the door, he saw his friends' tired but determined faces. "We did it," Malik greeted them with a smile. "Now it's time to make real change." In the living room, they gathered to discuss their next steps. "We need to draft an official letter to McDonald's management," said Sarah, a woman who had been a driving force in their campaign. "We need to emphasize the importance of diversity training for employees. It's not just about us, it's about creating a better environment for everyone." Hearing that, Malik nodded in agreement. "We should include statistics about workplace racism and how such training can improve the work atmosphere. We need strong facts to back our arguments." After hours of discussion and drafting the letter, they finally felt satisfied with the outcome. Malik sensed a renewed spirit. This was the necessary step to show that they were serious, and that their voices couldn't be ignored. However, not everyone was pleased with their move. A few days later, Malik received a message from a friend who worked at McDonald's. "You need to be careful. Management is very angry about the protest," the message read. Panic began to creep into Malik. When Malik and his friends finally decided to send the letter, they also reached out to local media to cover their efforts. Malik wanted to ensure that the broader community was aware of their struggle. About a week after the protest, they received news that the local media was willing to interview them. Malik felt excited. This was an opportunity to amplify their voices. On the day of the interview, Malik and some friends gathered at a small cafe downtown. The journalist assigned to interview them was an experienced woman named Lisa. She arrived with notes and a camera. "I want to hear from you directly. What happened at the protest, and why did you feel the need to act?" she asked enthusiastically. Malik led the discussion, sharing his experiences at McDonald's and why the protest was important. "We want to emphasize that racism should not be tolerated. We want McDonald's to be a safe place for everyone, regardless of their background," he said passionately. As the interview progressed, Malik felt increasingly confident. He saw how Lisa connected with their stories, noting every detail. Malik's friends also shared their personal experiences, describing how discrimination affected their daily lives. After the interview, Lisa promised to publish an article about their struggle. Malik felt a new hope. If the article could reach more people, they might influence policies at McDonald's and make management realize that change was necessary. A week later, the article about Malik and his friends' protest appeared in the local newspaper. The headline read, "Young Voices Against Racism at McDonald's Peaceful Protest Drives Change." Malik felt proud as he read it, seeing the faces of his friends smiling widely. However, behind that pride, Malik also knew they weren't completely safe. Negative comments began to surface on social media, attacking them and accusing them of being over the top. Aaron, feeling threatened by their efforts, started to lash out more aggressively. He and his friends wrote provocative comments and even spread rumors that Malik and his group were just seeking attention. Malik felt angry and frustrated, but he remembered what his community had taught him: we must stay focused on our goals. To keep his friends' spirits high, Malik organized another meeting. "We can't let these negative comments stop us. We must move forward and prove that we are here to change something," he said. The meeting was filled with energy. They planned strategies to counter the emerging hate. One of Malik's friends suggested hosting a seminar in their community to discuss the importance of diversity and how to face it. "We can involve local leaders and make this an educational opportunity," he said. Malik felt this was a great idea. "We need to spread our message even further. Let's organize a seminar that everyone can attend and invite many speakers," he said, and everyone agreed enthusiastically. They started working hard to plan the seminar, scheduling speakers, arranging a venue, and promoting it through social media. Malik felt optimistic. He knew they were doing something more than just fighting against racism. They were creating a platform for broader change. Meanwhile, on the other side, Aaron and his friends were getting angrier. They felt that Malik and his group's efforts threatened their existence. In this tense atmosphere, Malik and his community needed to stay united and strong. When the seminar arrived, Malik stood before a larger crowd than he had expected. In front of them, he saw hopeful faces, and he knew they were all there for the same purpose. "Thank you all for coming. Today we gather to celebrate diversity and understand that we all have a role in creating a better environment," he said, his voice filled with enthusiasm. With experienced speakers and inspiring stories, the seminar went smoothly. Malik watched as participants connected with one another, discussing relevant issues and committing to making a change. However, out there, Aaron and his group were not idle. They planned actions to disrupt the seminar, feeling threatened by the spirit that Malik and his friends had built. Malik knew challenges still lay ahead, but with strong community support, he believed they could face them. That night, after a successful seminar, Malik felt optimistic. He knew this was just the beginning. Together with his community, he was ready to face whatever came next, fighting for justice and unity, and making meaningful change in their society.